What was your great-grandmother's name? Take a second. Don't look it up. Just try to answer. If you're like most people, something strange just happened. You froze. Maybe you got a first name. Maybe nothing. And this is someone whose blood is running through your body right now. Someone without whom you would not exist. And you can't remember her name. That silence isn't a personal failure. It's not because you don't care, or your family isn't close, or you're bad with names. It's a clock, and it's running out on all of us, right now, at a predictable speed. You've probably always thought of being remembered as something soft, a feeling, a kind of love that either sticks around or doesn't, depending on how good a person you were. But it isn't that at all. It's mechanical, and the mechanism has an expiration date. Here's the rule. Memory researchers split remembering into two very different kinds. There's the informal kind, dinner table stories your grandfather used to say, and it has one requirement: someone alive who actually overlapped with you. The moment that last person dies, so does this kind of memory. So how long does that give you? 80 to 100 years, 3 to 4 generations. That's it. That's the entire lifespan of being remembered as a specific person instead of just a name on a piece of paper. And this isn't a guess. Two scholars, Jan and Aleida Assmann, mapped this out in the 1990s, building on earlier work by the sociologist Maurice Halbwachs. But here's what actually makes it convincing. Genealogists arrived at the same number completely on their own, just from watching thousands of families lose their own history. Archivists see it too. Nobody coordinated. An academic theory and generations of hands-on genealogical work landed on the same wall from two different directions. 3 generations. Then the fog. Think about what that means for you. Your grandparents. You can probably describe how they laughed, what they smelled like, a story they repeated 100 times. Your great-grandparents are already thinner. A name maybe, one photograph. Go 1 generation further, and for almost everyone, nothing. Not because those people mattered less, because the chain of living witnesses ran out. So is this just how it works? A law you can't fight? Not exactly. In West Africa, there's a tradition that seems to break the rule completely. Griots, hereditary oral historians tied to the old Mali Empire, are trained from childhood to memorize genealogies and epics and recite them with precision across centuries. The Epic of Sundiata is hundreds of years old. It's still carried person to person without decaying, which tells you something important. 80 to 100 years isn't biology. It's a default. Build an institution around memory, a trained role, a deliberate system, and the clock can be broken. That's why we still say the name Alexander the Great 2,000 years later, and almost nobody alive can name their own great-great-grandmother. One got books, monuments, curricula. The other got left to informal memory, and informal memory always runs out. So here's the honest, unsentimental version. You will very likely be forgotten as a specific named person within about a century of your death, unless someone deliberately builds a system to stop it. But there's a second half to this, and it comes from a completely different place, not memory. Math, try this. 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. Every generation back, the number doubles. Feels harmless. Keep going. 30 generations back, roughly 700 or 800 years. The math demands over 1 billion direct ancestors. From 1 generation alone. Keep going further, and you'd need more ancestors than every human who has ever lived, combined. That's impossible. So what's actually happening? Your family tree isn't a tree. It's a web that loops back on itself again and again. The same ancestors reappear in different branches, because there were never enough distinct people to fill every slot the math demands. Genealogists call this pedigree collapse, and it has a genuinely strange consequence. Geneticists estimate everyone alive today shares a common ancestor from only a few thousand years ago. Not tens of thousands, a few thousand, which means, in a way you can actually do the math on, you are related to every person alive on Earth right now. So hold both halves at once. Your name, your voice, the specific person you were, that has an expiration date, 80 to 100 years, unless someone institutionalizes it. But your material, your genetic thread, your fingerprint on what comes next, doesn't expire the same way. It doesn't vanish, it disperses, folded into more and more people, generation after generation, until it's untraceable back to you specifically, but never actually gone. Picture it this way: personal memory is a candle. It only stays lit as long as someone who once stood near its light is still alive to carry it. When they die, the flame goes out all at once, completely. Your existence is different. It's a drop of ink in water. It never disappears. It spreads and thins and mixes until you can't see where the ink ends and the water begins. Diluted past recognition, still there in every drop. We panic about being forgotten as if forgetting were the same as vanishing. It isn't. Forgetting is fast, and it happens to almost everyone who has ever lived. But vanishing, actually ceasing to have mattered, ceasing to have left a mark on what comes next, that almost never happens. You become part of the material everyone after you is built from, whether or not a single person can say your name. So, what was your great-grandmother's name? Maybe you still don't know it, but you know something bigger now. Her disappearance from memory was never a verdict on how much she mattered. It was just the ordinary end of communicative memory. The same fate waiting for all of us, on the same rough timeline, regardless of how loved we were. And you know the other half of her story? The half that didn't end. Some fraction of her is in you. Through you, some fraction will be in people who won't know your name either. 100 years from now, standing in a kitchen, frozen by the same question, carrying her forward without even knowing it, you will be forgotten. That part is almost certain. But you will not disappear. Those are not the same thing. And once you know the difference, the question was never really, how long until nobody remembers you? It was always, what will you hand forward into the water, long after your name stops being the thing that carries it?